MX5 was owned by my Uncle Billy, my late Uncle Billy, R.I.P. Uncle Bill. The last thing I said to him is, I'm not leaving it stock, and he said, that's fine. We've stripped the engine down. I bought a car that had been turboed and tuned badly. We took the best bits from that car, put them onto this car. So much fun in this car. However, about 2 weeks ago, I noticed quite a pool of oil on the front drive. I investigated underneath, and what I found was the weep hole in the gearbox weep hole was dripping. So I jumped on the internet, did a bit of research, identified that it was either going to be something gearbox side or engine side. I thought I'd document the way I would put it back, and you know, the whole name of this game is these are not how-tos. This is me, how I do it. And I think some ideas I have are good and worth sharing, and I know some ideas will be bad, and you'll want to tell me that. So feel free to tell me that. I'm fine with that.
So I was hoping to show the footage of me removing the gearbox, but then I found out the PPF was seized onto the rear diff. So that became a bit more of a job than I planned, but I have got a good system for removing and installing the gearbox alone. So I would recommend that you watch on and see how I put it back in. Clutch was an uprated racing clutch from Bofi Racing, bought new about 18 months ago, looked in fine condition, nice even wear across the friction plates, so that will just go straight back in once the seal's installed. Those flywheel bolts are torqued to 70 plus foot-pounds, so a little bit of heat and a little bit of extra leverage on the wrench was required, but they popped off nice and easily. I did actually succumb to buying one of those battery-powered ratchets. So you might notice I'm using a flywheel locking tool. It's been slightly modified for the MX5. Definitely does the job. Flywheel doesn't move, and I would highly recommend. So the flywheel's off. I'm just inspecting the back for signs of oil, which there were. I'm now just removing that seal. I'm using a small drill, drilled very carefully through the center of the seal. I did take a pick tool, but ended up using an Allen key, which I found was the perfect tool just to create the right amount of leverage between the seal and the crankshaft. Replacement parts were ordered via AutoLink and MX5 parts. Shout out to those guys for 24-hour delivery. Can't fault it. I'm going to place the seal in its position by hand. Chose to buy a specific tool for this job on the basis that maybe I'd not installed it properly the first time. This is the Jazz Performance seal installer. I was expecting a cheap 3D printed piece of plastic, but I actually received a solid metal tool, which is designed specifically to make this seal fit in exactly the right place. And it seemed to do exactly that very, very easily. So I would definitely recommend this tool for anybody doing this job. So the flywheel's going to go back on now. Those bolts are thread sealed. I use Permatex high temperature thread sealant. I've used it for years. I'm just going to resit that locking tool before I apply the torque to these bolts. I just want to make sure it's completely solid. There's a bit of force going to be applied to these bolts now, so I just want to make sure that flywheel is not going to move at all. I always torque bolts in a crisscross pattern to a lower torque setting initially. Once I'm happy with that, I will then increase the torque on the wrench, and as you'll see, I'm going to use the car as a bit of extra leverage to get these bolts up to the required torque. Clutch is going to go in now. I use a cheap clutch placement tool, which again I've had for a couple of years, but I will put a link in the description. Does exactly what it's supposed to do. It makes sure that that clutch is sat in its absolute correct position. These bolts on the clutch cover are torqued to a far lower setting. So, flywheel out, clutch out, new seal in, flywheel back in, clutch back in, and for me, that job went quite well. I'm just going to put the new side rear differential seal in, just giving it a light coating of oil, as I do with all new seals. I'm going to place this seal by hand initially, just going to roughly get it in the right place. And then I'm going to take the old damaged seal, give it a bit of a clean, and I'm going to use that as the driving tool for the new one. Works really well, works every time, puts the new seal just in the right spot. So I always like to just give things a once over before they go back into the car. I'm not sure I actually achieve much from it, but it just gives me the peace of mind to know that all the threads that are going back in and clean, all the bolts are going back in and clean. You know, if there's any fresh oil leaks, I'll be able to see them easier. I always spend a bit of time just trying to put things back in a better state than what I took them out in. Same with the PPF. Those bolts are susceptible to seizing up, as I quite well know. So I made sure they were nice and clean to go back in. Gave everything a bit of a coat of anti-seize as well. So now to the fun part. This is me installing the gearbox. Thought long and hard about this process, have done it before, although I feel I did a bit of a better job this time. A couple of things to note. Obviously, I'm using 2 jacks. The pieces of wood are hardwood. They are recessed so that the foot of the jack sits in. This gives me an opportunity to move things about a bit easier. If you've tried this before, you'll know how awkward it can be. The key to this one is patience. Take your time. Do everything in slow, incremental steps. And what you'll find is it will find its place. You can see I did have to rejig a few things, so it wasn't, you know, I'm not gonna lie, it took longer than this video may suggest. And I would recommend to anybody doing this job to take as much time as you need. There's been so many forum posts and questions about how to access those top gearbox bolts. I found is a decent ratchet with 4 extensions did the trick. Actually, I got the bolts in just fine, no problems at all. Certainly felt it could have been a lot harder, and I think the key to that was just, you know, being patient, taking time, making sure everything is in place. I actually fastened the 2 easier to access side gearbox bolts first. You don't need any extensions for them, so they were quite easy to get at. With my new battery powered ratchet, which did make the job that bit easier as well. So it's just a matter now of popping the diff back in. The diff is quite a heavy and awkward item. I always just pop it again on that recessed bit of wood, really handy. The prop shaft was actually seized to the rear diff as well. I can't believe how difficult that was to get off. So if any of you run an MX5 turbo, you'll understand how important engine cooling is, particularly around the turbo and exhaust header area. So while my header was off, I decided to replace the exhaust wrap. I always let the wrap soak before installing. This helps with the placement of the wrap, and I would highly recommend some thick gloves and some old clothes here, as this stuff gets everywhere. But as you can see, I'm wrapping it in a coil fashion as tightly as possible around the exhaust, and I'm trying to leave equal spacing between the wraps in order to increase the number of wraps towards the hotter end of the header pipe. Okay, to the final part of the process now. I'm just fitting the exhaust in. I'm using some new exhaust gaskets. Everything seems to go together really easily and really well. I actually really enjoyed this build. I think one of the reasons about documenting the whole process is you think carefully about each and every step, and it helps plan and forecast what may or may not happen. But actually I really enjoy all of this sort of work, even though as I've mentioned before, I'm definitely no mechanic, certainly not qualified. So final step of the process now is to replace the differential fluid. I also replaced the gearbox fluid, and I also flushed out all of the engine oil as well. For me, that's job done, and here's the first start, which is always a bit of a nervous moment. Please like and subscribe to be notified about future content. Thanks for watching. Bye.